I didn't even pay for this, and I still want my money back. Hey everyone, this is D, Movieman, fellow cinephile, popcorn addict, and emerging film critic, coming to you with reliable recaps, reviews, and reactions. And today, I'm coming to you all with a review for Nope, directed by Jordan Peele, and starring Daniel Kaluuya, Keke Palmer, and Yeun. Story-wise, the film is centered around OJ and Emerald, aka the Haywood siblings, whose experience at their father's Haywood Hollywood horse ranch becomes disturbingly complicated when a mysterious, otherworldly force begins to wreak havoc upon the land. So, I'm going to start with the pros. Yeah. To start off, let me say that I do appreciate Jordan Peele and his perspective when it comes to horror. It's not something that's typical horror, which is something I actually appreciate. From Get Out to Us and now Nope, we've gotten these three very distinctive takes on what we normally see as horror. It's not typical, it's not generic, and I'm always here for that. I also thought the casting here was really solid. This cast overall is so talented, and individually, as an ensemble, I really appreciated seeing each and every one of them here. I would say the biggest standout for me with this film was first and foremost the shooting location, and to another extent, the cinematography. This film was actually shot in the Agua Dulce Desert in northern Los Angeles County, which I would have not guessed initially, but I thought it made for such an intriguing setting. It was very eye-catching, and I actually thought that the landscape was almost a character within itself, which I also really enjoyed. With that being said, I thought the nighttime scenes where we're seeing that landscape were probably some of my favorites in the entire film. I loved the look and feel of it. I actually just wanted to be there. Just like stand there and like really take that in. I can't imagine what it was like to shoot there. We really do get a chance to settle into that atmosphere. We get to enjoy just this space, just kind of the peace and tranquility of it. And then, of course, that's completely disrupted. I loved how genuinely eerie and tense those moments were. And those moments were the ones where I was most invested in the film. I was like, okay, I'm in this. I cannot wait to see what happens next. I thought it was incredibly atmospheric. And I thought the sound mixing and the sound design was impeccable. Like, there were so many moments and there were so many scenes where you would hear these sounds and I got like literal chills. It was just, ugh. It was an experience for sure. In keeping with that, let me say that as someone who grew up as a child watching various, and I do mean various, sitcoms in the 90s, I have never, and I do mean never, been so horrified by something related to a 90s sitcom or an old school sitcom in general. Now, obviously, I'm not going to spoil it, but you'll know it when you see it. And I have to be honest, I don't scare easily. But it was one of those moments that when I realized what was happening and what was taking place, and the longer that this particular scene went on, I had to kind of plug the ears and kind of squint out of my eyes like, listen, I was not ready. All right, now I'm going to jump over to the cons. So, I once said something in my Halloween Kills review that I think applies here as well. You might say, wow, I had a great time. You might say, it was just okay. You might say, it wasn't the best, but whatever. And then there are those rare times where you walk out of a theater and all you can say is, what the f? Well, I neglected to mention that there can also be times where you're still sitting inside of a theater and all you can say is, what the f? Yeah, that was basically the crux of my experience. For starters, I thought the majority of this film was painfully slow, excruciatingly slow.
I'm bored! I'm so bored!
I did think it got marginally better as the film went on, but for the most part, I just thought this meandered on and on and on and on and on, and in my opinion, it wasn't really justified. I felt like, given the structure of the film and what was focused on, this story could have been told in a much, much shorter amount of time. I am absolutely here for a slower story development and story progression, and if we need a longer runtime to flesh everything out, that's totally fine. I have literally breezed through films with significantly longer runtimes, like Cloud Atlas, The Last Emperor, Dr. Zhivago, and many more. When I'm invested, I'm invested. So when I'm invested in the characters, when I'm invested in the story, and just all around having a general investment in what's happening in the overall film, I'm good to go. But here, outside of like a couple of moments, I never felt anything at all. I have two major red flags when it comes to watching films. Number one, if I fall asleep, 95% of the time, it means the film is either really, really whack or really uninteresting. Number two, if I feel compelled to pull out my phone while I am watching a film inside of the theater, it means I genuinely do not care anymore. Me looking at my phone inside of a movie theater is like the rarest of occurrences. It never happens. So the fact that I pulled my phone out even one time is bad enough. But the closer and closer we got to the end, the less and less I cared, and the more and more my phone came out. I was so over it. I also thought this whole structure of breaking up the film with these random cuts to black, and then we see these names being displayed. I was aware of what the names were, but I just felt like there was nothing here to really justify that. So I was just like, can we just cut normally from one scene to the next? It just felt very unnecessary. Now, earlier, I said that I thought the casting here was really solid, and I still feel that way. However, the characterization, the performances, and just the dialogue for these characters overall was not it. I think Daniel Kaluuya is an excellent actor, but his character was simply here to stare mindlessly into space. And that was it. Every character is not meant to be boisterous and over the top. And there's something to be said about subtlety in performances, and that's something I really love. I didn't expect his character to be super over the top. I understood his mentality. I understood, the way he navigated these different spaces, even as far as Hollywood and the studios. I really appreciated the scene where OJ is on set and he is standing in front of this cast and crew and all these execs, all these people. This is not his world. This is not his lane. And him having to talk and interact, you can tell he is totally out of his element. He has no idea what to say, incredibly uncomfortable. Then all of a sudden, Emerald breezes in, and she's the life of the party. She is charismatic, she is confident, she knows all the right things to say, and she delivers all of it perfectly. Now, I totally related to that, because despite how I present myself on camera, a lot of times I can relate to navigating a lot of spaces like OJ. So I appreciated seeing the clear parallel between Emerald and OJ and their dynamic as siblings. I thought that was great. So I'm certainly not saying that I needed to see Daniel Kaluuya say, "I'm not black, I'm OJ." But I still felt like, even with the subtlety of that character, just overall it felt very flat. And I couldn't root for him, even though I really wanted to. I just felt nothing. I really do enjoy Keke Palmer, and I think so much of this film was just her bringing her natural charisma, her natural lively personality to Emerald. And I really enjoyed that throughout the film. But again, characterization and the dialogue. I felt that, although I enjoyed it, her main goal here was to be quippy and comedic, and there was not much depth to her outside of that. Now, everyone doesn't have to have depth, I guess, in real life, and every character doesn't have to have a bunch of depth, and we don't have to go super, super deep. But I just wanted more from her, the same way I wanted more from OJ, and I just didn't get it. And as far as the rest of the characters, I thought the majority of them were very obnoxious and just did extremely dumb things. It's only so many times I can watch someone stand around and stare when something dangerous is happening. I understand it's supposed to be suspension of disbelief, but for me, that can only go but so far. And after a while, I was pretty over that as well. I appreciate what Brandon Perea was trying to bring to his role. I'm here for the Filipino Puerto Rican representation, but that character, ugh. And I felt the same about the rest of them. I don't really care whether you live or you die. You're just here, everyone's expendable, and I'm ready to just wrap this up.
If he dies, he dies.
And then we had quite a few actors here who I felt were completely underused. I thought Stephen Yeun was excellent in this film, but do we get a lot of him? No. And then we have Keith David and Barbie Ferreira, who are literally in this film for 5 minutes. And I just feel like, why waste their time? Now, ultimately, they got their paycheck, right? So I'm not mad at that, but it just feels like you could have given those roles to anybody. So with all of that, I just felt like the investment just was not there. And if I am not invested, if I don't feel anything, if there's not an attachment or a connection, then I'm just sitting there ready to go home. I'm like counting down the minutes. I'm just like, all right, I can't wait to go home and eat or do anything else. Now, this last kind of mine has to do with the film, but it kind of doesn't have to do with the film at the same time. As we all know, film is subjective. And everyone's perspective of every individual film is going to vary. I always have, and I will continue to respect everyone's opinion about film, even when it doesn't align with mine. However, this whole habit of making inaccurate generalizations and justifications for how people feel about a film or what they took away from it is a no for me. I completely reject the notion that if you didn't love something or didn't like it even, that it's simply because you did not understand it. There are films that I completely understood and still disliked. And there are films that I didn't completely get, but I still really enjoyed and appreciated. I am not mad at open-endedness. I'm not mad at ambiguity. And I don't have to have all the answers to everything. A lot of times I appreciate that more than just a straightforward film experience. However, the story elements, the symbolism, the deeper meaning here just didn't work for me. And I understood it. Especially the concept of how we as humans perceive nature. And there's other pieces to that as well. But it makes sense. It may not make sense the first time. You may have to revisit it. But it's there. I got it. I just don't like it. So, completely swerving out of your lane to tell people, or myself, that
you just wanted surface level entertainment.
Says who? Now, did I want surface level entertainment? Or do you need to tell yourself that in order to feel justified about the superiority complex that you have over your supposed understanding of this film? It's just a question.
Now check that.
So, I'm going to give Nope a C-. Whew! I don't think there could have been a more accurate title for this film. I didn't have super high expectations for this, but given Jordan Peele's track record and just knowing I would get something that wasn't typical or even mainstream, I was totally here. I was ready to get something that was out of the box. I always like to be connected in some way. There are films that aren't even the greatest films, but I feel something. It causes an emotion. It pulls me this way. It pulls me that way. Like, I feel something. And although there were moments where it got me, the majority of the moments here, I was just like I'm ready to go. In the end, watching a giant Hoover vacuum bag attack and slurp up people and objects for 2 hours and 11 minutes is not my idea of a good time. I love that people are enjoying this film. I love that people are pulling all this meaning out of it, that they're digging deep, that they want to watch it again and, dig even deeper. Like, I'm always here for that. But do I feel the need to revisit this film and take the opportunity to dive even deeper anytime soon?
No. No. No, 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 no.
Nope is now playing in theaters. You guys feel free to check it out, leave your thoughts below, and let me know what you think. So, once again, this is D Movieman signing off, and I'll see you at the movies.